Before we talk about where we are, we must first remember from whence we came. Marty Schottenheimer brought winning football back to Kansas City and built what is now known as Chiefs Kingdom.
We transitioned from a team built on its defense in the 90s to one of the most dominant offenses and return men in NFL history, led by Dick Vermeil.
In 2012, a 2-14 Chiefs team displayed disastrous play on the field and turmoil off it. We asked to save our Chiefs, and in came Andy Reid, who immediately turned this franchise into a perennial playoff team.
Then, on April 27, 2017, the Chiefs broke free from their journeyman quarterback restraints and drafted Patrick LeVon Mahomes.
In 6 years with Patrick at the helm, we're back-to-back champs and a dynasty headed towards a three-peat. We are unrelenting for this city, these players, and this team. This is the show for the allies. Arrowhead allies.
Well, with Dynasty Mode fully activated here in Chiefs Kingdom, we continue to revel in the sweet success of Super Bowl 58. However, it's time to literally and figuratively turn the calendar to the new league year, which brings you to our annual free agent Freakout Frenzy show. And while the winds of change are blowing across the NFL, the same goes for us here at Arrowhead Allies, as we are proud to welcome a new ally to the fold in the incomparable, the outspoken one, Lance Twidwell. Lance, thanks so much for being here with us, buddy. How's it going? And on behalf of all of us, welcome to Arrowhead Allies.
Oh, yeah. Boys and girls, I hope you're ready. I hope you're ready, because a lot of you probably wondering why the hell. First of all, thank you, gentlemen, for welcoming me onto this show. We talked about this. I was excited as hell for this opportunity. Been a part of the Starcade Media family now for 2 years. Loved every second of it. This has felt like family for the first time. I've worked with other networks in the past, other people in the past, but this is the first time where things feel right, things feel real, and I'm so happy to be here with you guys. And many people might be asking that are watching this live, why in the hell is this douchebag wearing glasses right now? Is it because of daylight savings? No, it's not. Is it because I'm in a very light room? No, it's actually rather dark in here. It's because of the fact that the future is so damn bright at Starcade Media. It's so damn bright at Chiefs Kingdom. It's so damn bright for the Chiefs as a whole. And it's because of three particular reasons. One, the great and late Lamar Hunt decided to hand off the majority of his franchise to one of his youngest children in Clark Hunt. And then that young son decided to do something that, after one coach who was successful in a place of Philadelphia, a week later decided to make him his next head coach, didn't let anybody else go and get him. And then all these years later, after that owner had been called cheap and a cheap ass and getting F-minuses on grades, said, you know what? I'm proving him wrong. And he signed the most lucrative deal a defensive tackle has ever gotten in Chris Jones, and showed the whole world, cheap ass, my ass. Fellas, It is a bright day. It is a beautiful night for Arrowhead Allies. The people are waiting for us to get our takes off. So, fellas, allies, let us begin.
Couldn't have said it any better, Lance. We can't thank you so much for joining this show. We get right into it because you talked about it there. Cheap. Chris Jones doesn't know what you're talking about when you're talking about cheap. 5 years, $95 million guaranteed, just a tick under $160 million over that 5 years. And we've got a contract breakdown. He's only making about $7.35 million this first year. Does that mean, Brian, that L'Jarius Sneed could stay in Kansas City?
Well, first off, let's welcome Lance to the show. I'm glad to have you here, fam. I cannot wait to get into some intense yelling matches with you on this very show. But maybe I've thought about that a couple times. And what would it be like for the Chiefs to not only, bring almost the entire offense back, but this defense? I thought they were going to get chipped to death. Of course, we just saw Willie Gay get away. He's gone. But I thought there were going to be several other players to leave too. And if the Chiefs can bring back Sneed and Jones again, I don't see it happening. No, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not that half glass full
be
about
this.
it because I worry about it because number one, I think his value is at like an all-time high right now. He's coming off a Super Bowl win. Clearly, that he was one of the face of the franchises coming up with this playoff run. He made play after play, smack down Tyreek Hill in the first round. You saw what he did the whole season with the number of A+ players he was going against last year. So is L'Jarius Sneed's value going to be any higher than what it is now? I would venture to say no, and I would venture to say that Veach is going to get an offer that he cannot refuse coming up towards the draft. So I mean, look, in theory, I love it. I would love to have Sneed back, but I don't see it happening, especially with Trent McDuffie, and you need to pay him in a couple years coming up around the corner.
Yeah, and Shane, we want to get your thoughts as well on Chris Jones signing. His contract structure, only $7.3 million the first year. Also, Drew Tranquill is back as well. 3 years, $19 million, $13 million, fully guaranteed. What do you make of these defensive re-signings?
I love Drew Tranquill coming back. And man, the kid, I call him a kid. And of course, he's probably 28 years old. And I think he's 28, right? Anyway, he loves it here. He made it no secret. Him and Chris Jones, let's be honest, made it no secret that they wanted to stay during the parade when they were clear, hey, we want to come back. But yes, Drew Tranquill was solid. He was solid when Nick Bolton went down. He was even solid. He even had to play when Willie Gay was out. So he showed that he's worth every penny. And I think he took a team friendly, if I'm not mistaken, a 3-year extension to stay in Kansas City, where a year from now, we're all going to be sitting here talking about, okay, is Drew Tranquill going to be the successor to Nick Bolton? Because Chris Jones, who signed his contract, people might say, well, Chris Jones contract, when it starts to hit in years 2, 3, 4, and 5, but we don't know if he's going to see 4 and 5, but specifically to Chris Jones, I love it. I sat here last summer and said, let's pay him whatever he wants. You know, I saved that video and I put it on Lance's talk because Lance himself, he knows there was a lot of people in the media that was saying, we don't need Chris Jones. We can find some 6'5" defensive tackle that can bat down passes. Nope. And I respect Lance calling him out because there was a lot of people that was saying we don't need Chris Jones. But I felt, even though my allies here knew I got Chris Jones jersey, of course, over my right shoulder, knew that I wanted to pay him whatever it took. And thank God it happened. It took a little longer than expected, but the dynasty of this team, the face of this dynasty, I think Lance said it last Saturday morning, 9 hours before Chris Jones signed his extension. The face of this dynasty, the trio is Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones. I am stoked. What do you say, Lance?
Echo the sentiments 100%, guys. This is what I've been talking about for 2 years now. Dynasty players make dynasty dollars. And for some reason, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that we are a fan base that is not used to the type of success that they've been having over these last 6 years. And that goes all the way from the top all the way to the bottom. Like I said, this has been a learning lesson for Clark Hunt. This has been a learning lesson for everybody that's been involved in the Chiefs community. That when you have a winning organization like this, something that has only been done a few times in the history of the NFL to this magnitude, and potentially maybe never ever before, with the way they're going to continue to win, in my opinion, this is something that you have to understand when it comes to the value of a player like Chris Jones. It's not the quarterback, sure. It's not the sexy receiving player on the offensive side that gets all the glitz and the glam and is dating the most popular pop star in the entire planet.
Hypothetical.
Yeah, there you go, there. But Chris Jones is the guy that makes all the difference in the world. And I've always stated this since day one when it came to this inevitable, in my eyes, contract the Chiefs were going to have to give Chris Jones, is that Brett Veach, since he took over in 2018 as the Chiefs GM, never had to worry about what he was building this cheap defense around. He has the youngest defense in the league, the cheapest defense in the league for the last 2 years. The luxury of that is because of the fact he's had a guy that he can build around. If he had no Chris Jones in the middle, this wouldn't be the cheapest and youngest defense in the league. He would have to reconfigure and retool this defense unlike he's ever had to do before. So we knew that the leverage was always going to be on Chris Jones' side as long as he was the great player that we know him to be. And people keep trying to throw dirt on him because he's nearing 30, which he will be 30 this summer. But we've seen some of the greats that have stylistically and size-wise very similar assets to what Chris Jones has had his entire career play deep into their 30s. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be the next Reggie White. That's one of the true greats. But if Chris Jones can be a lighter tier of a guy like that, I'm willing to give that guy a 4 or 5 year extension to see what he can do as he gets into his 30s, stays healthy, stays effective, and continues to give Patrick Mahomes what he needs on the defensive side. So, guys, I was shocked by the number. I will say that. But knowing that the Chiefs had no other option this offseason when they gave L'Jarius Sneed the tag and knew that they would not let just Chris Jones just walk and hit the open market, there was no way they could be that reckless knowing they have a three-peat, a realistic three-peat in the midst of what they have going on here for the first time in really in NFL history. They're the one true team that can get an actual three-peat. There was no way they're going to let that guy walk. So I knew that Chris Jones was going to get paid. It was just a matter of when, not if. But it still blew my mind that they gave him $95 million guaranteed and 158 total. So this was one of the most pivotal moments in my, and I'm not trying to be hyperbolic here, fellas, but I think this is one of the true pivotal moments. I wasn't joking when I had my opening about Clark Hunt, because Clark Hunt has been known to be a cheap owner when it comes to cash. A lot of people don't know the difference between cap and cash spending. And historically, this franchise has not been a big spender on cash. Well, that was a lot of cash they just gave Chris Jones up front. So I think this changes the spectrum, the entire idea. When free agents and veteran players are looking at this team from here on out, they see they took care of that dude when he bet on himself and did what he did in 2022 and 2023. They're going to be like, okay, I think that franchise can take care of me. I obviously want to win, so I'll go there. But I also know they'll probably pay me because they just did it with that guy. That only helps things from an optics standpoint. From an optics standpoint, this only helps the team, and obviously from a football perspective, this only helps the team solidify what they need. Like we said before the show, now the Chiefs fans can sit here and relax and just watch as the Chiefs just add little pieces here and there to this equation, because this team's already loaded. So when you don't see the Chiefs all active in free agency, that's because they have mostly what they need. They do need to add to wide receiver. I'm sure we're going to talk about that. But they got their big guy, guys. They got him back, and he ain't going nowhere anytime soon. He's going to retire a Chief, and I don't know how that could ever be viewed as anything other than a positive.
Amen.
Can we start having an honest conversation?
Talk to me.
Absolutely, Brian, always.
Okay. And look, I know I'm walking into the Lions Den here, because this is the 90s nostalgia show. But when are we going to start saying the fact of Chris Jones being the best defensive player in Chiefs history? When are we going to admit it? I admitted it. I came to that conclusion a long time ago. I came to that conclusion when I saw Derek Thomas's postseason stats.
Right.
Compared to Chris Jones's stats, or not even the stats, because there's so many stat boys now that what about what we see? What about those playoff moments? Chris Jones, we can pull him from anywhere. Sacking Joe Burrow take us from the AFC Championship game to the bowl in 22.
That was his first playoff sack. That was his first ever playoff sack.
Him knocking down passes in Super Bowl 54. Him rushing Deion Dawkins to put him in Josh Allen's lap to affect the throw. I mean, there's so many moments for Chris Jones in his postseasons. Derek Thomas, there's a Derek Thomas jersey right here. Okay, there's only 2 jerseys hung up in this house. Derek Thomas, Patrick Mahomes. Okay, so nobody is a bigger Derek Thomas fan than me. But one thing I am is a realist, and I'm honest. And I can sit here and say that Chris Jones, in my lifetime, and I've seen both play their entire careers, has had more of an impact on this franchise than DT.
Derek Thomas, when you compare a lot of the genre, the era of football, the 90s to now, I think what you have to remember is the 90s was the awakening. We were dead to rights. I mean, like I've said numerous times, more people were going to see the Kansas City Kings before they left town in 85 than going to Arrowhead. But when Marty Schottenheimer came here in 1989 and took Derek Thomas 4th overall, that's who we thought was going to wake us up from the dead. And Derek Thomas was great in the 90s. I mean, the second season in the league, he had 20 sacks. But you're right. In playoffs, the only sack and fumble that I can remember was Warren Moon in the division round win in January 16th, 1994, when the Chiefs did upset the Houston Oilers with Joe Montana. So, but if you want to honestly put them together side by side, Brian, I will listen to that debate and I'll have to sleep on it before I'll say that Chris Jones is better than Derek Thomas. We could turn this into a whole hour-long debate. I mean, it'd be like Lance when he has Michael Jordan versus LeBron on from the Spoken. Him and Trevor can make that subject last 2.5 hours. But we're going to talk about this. What do you think, Lance? What do you think? Chris Jones, Derek Thomas, bring on the debate, buddy. What do you think?
I'm glad this question's actually being asked, Brian. I'm glad you brought this up because this was something that I heard and saw other people conversing about over these last couple of days. So I have actually been thinking about it. There is obviously a difference between being the greatest and being the best. If we can speculate on this for just a second, I think there is an absolute argument right now that Chris Jones is the greatest defensive player because of what he has done to contribute to the success that this team has been having. Obviously, Derek Thomas did not to contribute to the success. The only fallback in that argument, though, is the fact that Derek Thomas didn't have a Patrick Mahomes. He didn't have a quarterback of this magnitude, this generational transcendent talent that was doing the things on the other side of the football. In fact, he had quite the contrary. And so that's what I have to defend Derek Thomas. And when we look at raw numbers, this is why I say that if I had to say who's the best player between them right now, I would probably have to go with DT still because of his raw numbers, the fact that he's still very much in the top 10, if I'm not mistaken, still very much in the top 10 all-time in sacks. This guy's an edge rusher. He was a guy, and not to mention the fact DT was doing that in a run-heavy league. So he had even more limited opportunities to go after the quarterback when they were passing the ball, a little bit less than what they do in today's NFL. What Chris Jones has a defense on when it comes to best is the fact that he gets double-teamed more than anybody else in the league. Over the last just 2 seasons, Chris Jones has been double-teamed 71% of the time. That is by far the most in the NFL amongst all pass rushers. So he's dealing with it from an interior perspective, whereas a DT or any of the other greats that you want to talk about primarily are on the outside dealing with the tackle. Now, that's not easy on itself. When you're going against 2 sludgy, big old fat guards and centers, that's a lot harder to get through. That's why I defend Chris Jones and his sack totals in the postseason because Frank Clark is second all time, if I'm not mistaken, fellas, right? In postseason sacks all time?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's making the Hall of Fame, Frank Clark or Chris Jones?
Chris Jones.
Yeah.
And why is that? Because Frank Clark was able to capitalize off what Chris Jones was setting up for him to do.
Right.
So these 2 players, Derek Thomas and Chris Jones, although their ultimate job is to get to the quarterback, it is contextualized differently because Derek Thomas is coming from the outside, whereas Chris is taking on the brunt of what he's the main focus right in the center of that offensive line. It's a much tougher job for him to do. So when it comes to greatest, when it comes to contributing to greatness, it is Chris Jones. I will agree with you on that. When it comes to best, I still think DT has that right now. But guys, the beautiful thing is what I just talked about. Chris Jones, there are 0 signs of this man slowing down. It would not shock me at all if by the 3rd, 4th year of his contract, this man is still one of the best at what he does. It would not shock me because he has not shown me, oh yeah, there's telltales. He's been suffering some injuries here or there. He hasn't. He's still playing at the top of his game. And I don't think he's one of those guys that is strictly driven by money. I think he's a guy that truly wants to win. He is truly driven by legacy. Obviously, getting paid is a big thing for him, but he knows what his value is to this team that could potentially be the greatest dynasty in the history of the NFL. So I think it's very much in line that Chris Jones can finish as both the greatest and the best defensive player in the history of the Chiefs.
Let me add this on too, because those are some good points. Just real quick. Look, it's harder to play defense in Chris Jones' era. Way harder. So many rules are tailored to the offense. And yeah, there's so many arguments to balance out both ways. Okay, yeah, they ran more back then, but now it's harder to play D. DT was on the outside, Chris Jones on the inside, and Chris Jones has, if I'm not mistaken, around 75 sacks or so from the interior. What? Are we serious?
Chris Jones doesn't have to go after his offensive coordinator in the halftime of a postseason game like Derek Thomas was going after Paul Hackett in the locker room because Steve Bono was throwing the ball all over in one of the coldest games ever. He's like, run the damn ball.
And I'll make this one last point, and then we can move on. In the 1993, Shaggy, we'll go to you. 1993 AFC Championship game. How many downs did Derek Thomas play?
Not many. He got pulled because Trevor Thomas was running all over him. They were just at him with the left tackle, Will Wolford.
You take Derek Thomas out. Okay, we saw what happened. But you take Chris Jones out of the defense, they're definitely not winning. not this defense. So I'm on a lot of arguments to make both ways. I kind of like this discussion, and I know this ain't gonna do nothing but heat up for the next several years.
I'm just glad that it's something that can heat up. What a great argument to have, and what a great problem to have. We love Chris Jones. We were able to go down to Miami and talk to him a year ago at the Catch, and we're going to talk about the Catch is coming back this year down in Fort Lauderdale. But man, to meet the Katz brothers, to meet those guys that represent Chris Jones, man, that's a whole nother level. So whatever the Chiefs organization, whatever Brett Veach, whatever this front office did to make that work without any further headaches, all the power in the world, and props to them, because those guys straight out of the movie Goodfellas, and you know what I mean. They're Noah Groniger. You've dealt with them. We've dealt with them. Byron Pringles dealt with them, for the love of God. Oh my, Katz brothers. Come on, you have free invitation to come on this show anytime, Katz brothers. We love you.
You know, you guys had a chance to go down there. You know, is it going to be another Chris Jones event?
I'm glad you asked, Shane. The SFC's The Catch will emanate from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, April 18th through 20th. Right now, they're looking at 16 players. They have 8 on the board. We're not sure about Chris Jones. We're not sure if any Chiefs will be involved this year. So far, there are only 8. Guys like Will Anderson, James Cook's going to be there. I believe the defending champions are going to be coming back with Dalvin Cook. Quinn and Williams. There's some on the board. We're going to see how things shake out. Now, last year, as you remember, we went down there to try to recruit DeAndre Hopkins to Kansas City, which leads me to this. Noah, start bringing it up. Get your trigger finger ready. We got to talk receiver. Lance has brought it up. We've all brought it up. A lot of people in the comments have brought it up. They're bringing out names. We're throwing names up on the board. You know, as the Chiefs, you know what? This free agency thing, this isn't necessarily our time to shine. This is time to watch the Raiders, to watch the Falcons, to watch all these teams rearrange deck chairs on the Titanic while we sit back and revel in back-to-back Super Bowls. None of these franchises can relate to us, guys. We may not be up there for these high-priced free agents. We may not be up there to try to get involved in a trade for T. Higgins. But what we can do is sit back, wait, and kind of play chess with our own pieces and see what we can do here. Noah, this is the room that you have for us. I would like you to go into further discussion about this, because this seems logical to me.
Yeah, I mean, we've lost out. Tyler Lockett re-signed with the Seahawks, so that didn't happen. Darnell Mooney's a Falcon. So kind of what's left on the board there, and this is what I had a couple weeks ago, even before those moves happened. Marquise Hollywood-Brown, I'm not a huge fan of his. He's like 50% whether he catches or drops it, so he'll fit right in with last year's crew, dropping the ball all the time. But they like speed. They don't have a lot of speed on the team right now, so Marquise Hollywood-Brown could fit in. KJ Osborne, the third receiver, besides Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison for the Vikings last year. I like him. He's in that $7 million range per year. I think he could add something to the room behind Marquise Hollywood-Brown or Rashee Rice. Xavier Legette, he's probably going to be a first-round wide receiver. I'd like him out of South Carolina. Reminds me of DK Metcalf, has the speed, has the size, has the athleticism, can be a jump ball guy, can be a red zone, goal line target guy. And then Justin Watson, just because he's still on a deal and he can be a veteran in the room, helping these other guys that don't really know the offense.
Call my guy. Call my guy.
Connor Emory can't do it, so.
Remigio!
Nico Remigio and Jamal Agnew fighting it out for the return specialist 6 wide receiver. Best man wins, and that's my wide receiver room that I'd like to see moving forward.
Hey,
Ryan,
Remigio,
like
and
Nico?
I say go get Smith Marset. Go get him back. Because if we rewind the tape, I wanted him. I said, how come we can't keep him and cut MVS? Say that money last year. It all worked out. We won the Super Bowl, but I really like that kid. Is he still with the Panthers?
They didn't keep him, so he's out there. So
he's for the taking. Oh, we gotta go get him. That's that wide receiver 1 right there, baby. What's up?
Oh, jeez.
He could get your 1,000 yards that Sky Moore didn't get you last year.
Yeah, for real. Hey, I'm embarrassed at that. Like I really thought Sky Moore was gonna turn it up last year. 1,000 yards all purpose. Didn't even sniff it.
I know
I'm calling it Sky Moore 1,000 yards this season. If you include all the yards, just that he runs on the field, he doesn't have to catch the ball, just running routes. He's going to get 1,000 yards.
You're so rude, Noah.
I know. We're doing our mock draft in 4 weeks. 4 weeks from today. But you really think Legette will be a first-round pick?
I do.
He'll be right there
on top of the second round. Like we'd have to take him there, or maybe move down in the top of the second round to snag him.
Do you like Legette over Worthy?
I do. I don't like the speed to me is not like, oh, he ran the fastest. So did John Capel. So did John Ross. Just these guys, they don't transition. I think, Lance, you had a post about that, if I'm not mistaken, about these fast guys. Not a lot of them work out and become great wide receivers. So
it's true. And guys, we have breaking news. We don't have a graphic for this, but we've got to bring this up. Just 1 minute ago, it was reported by Adam Schefter, Patrick Mahomes is rescheduling his contract to create an additional $21.6 million worth of salary for the Chiefs.
Seriously?
Boom.
Creating how much?
It's on $21.6 million.
Does that mean we can dream about the Twitter trade of Justin Jefferson for #1 draft pick?
Right.
No.
That's that. Now sign me up for that. Justin Jefferson, the best wide receiver in the league. He's out there for the taking. I'm not sure. I don't think Minnesota will pull that trigger because everybody in the league will be pissed at them. But man, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've been salivating for that one. If it's any player in the league that I'm like, man, Veach, push the chips in, bro. Push them in. Push them in for Justin Jefferson. Why not? And I thought that this team could be the 2007 Patriots, man. Like not saying that the Patriots pushed all the chips in that year, but they went out and got Randy Moss, and he changed the entire team and how they were. Now they didn't win any Super Bowls because the offense was way more explosive with him. Before then, it was way more dink and dunk, small ball. But with Moss, they were able to, of course, go over the top over anybody. He beat Prime Revis every year. But man, I would love for Veach to push the chips in and just go and get either, if not Justin Jefferson, and I would love to trade up and get one of these spectacular wide receivers. Patrick deserves it, man.
But I like that.
That's what I've been saying since Tyreek Hill left. Patrick deserves it. You said no, we're fine.
Well,
we won 2 Super Bowls.
Chiefs currently have 6 draft picks. 6 draft picks. The Chiefs currently have 6. If they trade Snead for maybe a second to fifth, they'll have 8, right? So if they have
7 right now.
Okay, 7.
You got a comp pick.
Compensatory, yeah.
Okay, so if they could get 9 if they get 2 picks for Snead. So that's going to work into a trade. I mean, keep in mind, we're talking, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking hypotheticals here. Noah, when you see this money just freed up for Patrick Mahomes, what does that tell you?
That maybe this graphic won't come true and L'Jarius Sneed will come back to Kansas City and at least on the franchise tag for 1 year. And while they try and work something out, hopefully they can do that. And then, they've got more money to keep Sneed and go get some of these receivers. Because right now, before Mahomes restructures his contract, it was kind of having to choose one or the other. Can't keep Snead, can't go kind of rework the wide receiver room. Now maybe they can do a little bit of both.
What do you think, Clint?
Yeah, no, I'm open to any debate. And Brian, God, what you said about the 07 Patriots is what I've talked to Noah about since this offseason began. I said there are layers to this. There are levels to this dynasty. What if the next phase is a team that can completely blow you off the field instead of going to overtime with the Texans in 2022 or losing to the Raiders on Christmas Day only to finally get and hey, I'm not complaining. Guys, we got to be honest. Our job is not very easy here at Arrowhead Allies. We're going to have a tough time because what do you do when you're a sports show? If you're anything worth your weight in salt, you've got to be able to criticize. You got to be able to dive deep. You got to be able to, get in the weeds and really separate, the good from the bad. There is no bad here. Everything Brett Veach does, everything this organization does, it all comes up roses. It's all 777, at the casino. So we're going to have to work hard to find things that we don't really like. There might be little nuances. There might be things we might do something stupid and I don't know, bring McCole Hardman back. But you know what? Yeah. He did catch the touchdown in the Super Bowl to win the game. I'd say Brett Veach, Mahomes, this offense, they'll probably just figure it out again. But there are layers to this. Maybe this team gets better. Maybe it's dominant. Maybe you remember 2020 coming off of a Super Bowl win where you went out and went 14-2, should have been 15-1, would have been rested starters against the Chargers. Maybe there are layers to this. Maybe we're all spoiled and that's just what we have to look forward to. I don't know, but guys, whatever's going on here, I want more of it because this winning, this success, it is a drug and I can never be without it again. It's like, I can't imagine what it's going to be like when we enter our post Tom Brady Patriots phase, like they're going through right now with Mac Jones. I might just denounce my possessions and move to Iceland. Look for me in Iceland in 2038.
Hey, Lance, what is this recent news of Patrick Mahomes freeing up salary cap space? What does that tell you, Lance?
It tells me that Patrick Mahomes is one of one and that his contract is also one of one. We've never seen anything like this before in the history of sports. When we saw this contract initially come down the pike, we knew that this was designed for one reason only. Obviously, Patrick wanted his money. He said so in press conferences. He's like, I like money. I like to make money. He's been very transparent about that. But this is all about one thing, and it's to build a dynasty that we've never seen before. I know that people think that what the Patriots did for 20 years can never be replicated, but what people forget is that in between the two segments of time that the Patriots won those Super Bowls, they had a 10-year gap. A 10-year gap where they didn't win a damn thing. The Chiefs do not want that because they can't afford to risk that, maybe Patrick can play till 45 like Tom Brady. There's a reason why Tom Brady and what he did was so special and so unique because it hasn't been replicated before. So you got to use Patrick Mahomes' greatness and maximize his greatness while you know you got it. And with this contract, it tells you that it's going to give you every opportunity in the world to get as many pieces and as much talent on this roster as humanly possible. And as the Chiefs continue to win Super Bowls and at least get to Super Bowls and get to the dance, you're going to attract more people like this. This is why this offseason and what has happened so far is such a beautiful thing moving forward, guys, because from the top down, when we saw those grades come out, I know I keep bringing that up, but people pay attention to that stuff. We've heard J.J. Watt talk about how players take that stuff seriously. If they see that your owner is taking care of your own, they're going to want to come to your town because not only does the incentive of winning there, but they know that you'll pay for them. And with Patrick Mahomes showing his selflessness by moving money around when he doesn't have to do this, he's already helped this team win 3 Super Bowls. He can say, I'm chilling. I got my money. You guys figure it out. I'll see you guys when training camp starts up. He ain't doing that. He's showing how involved he is for the team building aspect of things. And that makes Brett Veach's job, Clark Hunt's job, Andy Reid's job that much easier. Now, I love Brian's optimism about, throwing all the chips in because I'm with you, brother. Like, when it comes to doing a 3-peat, I'm all in. But I hope we understand, guys, the amount that you would have to give up in order to get a player of Justin Jefferson's magnitude.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw what the Chiefs got back in return for Tyreek Hill, who was 3.5 years older than what Justin Jefferson is now. They got 5 picks in return, and it spanned over 3 drafts. I don't think that we understand how much of a sacrifice the Chiefs are going to have to take. Now, yes, you would get Justin freaking Jefferson, but the Chiefs just won. And hear me out. I don't want to sound like a hypocrite here because I've been the guy that's been hammering, go get a wide receiver 1. Damn it. I've been saying that for 2 years.
Yeah.
But over those last 2 years, the Chiefs happened to win the damn Super Bowl. So what I've been saying is, yes, it'd be great to still have a Tyreek Hill. Yes, it would be great to have a Justin Jefferson. But you know what the Chiefs just really need? A Juju Smith-Schuster. They just need a guy that can be reliable, find open spots, get open, alleviate some of the pressure, and find a way to win games. And here's the biggest reason why I'm saying this, guys. Because of the fact that it's going to take a lot of draft picks to trade to Minnesota, and they're the type of team that look to be clearly retooling and rebuilding. Probably a little bit of both. Since 2020, here are some notable draft picks that Brett Veach has had, guys. I've put this on my show. I'm going to say it real quick here. Creed Humphrey, Trent McDuffie, L'Jarius Sneed, Isaiah Pacheco, Trey Smith, Rashee Rice, Nick Bolton, George Karlaftis, Willie Gay Jr., Mike Danna, Leo Chenal, Brian Cook, Noah Gray, Jalen Watson, Shamari Connor, Joshua Williams. This doesn't include third-year hopefuls and Najee Johnson and second-year hopefuls and FAU, Wanya Morris, and Nick Jones. In other words, there is a legitimate chance that Brett Veach hit on 20 of his last 29 draft picks. So if you can give this guy who has been drafting his ass off as many draft picks as humanly possible, I like to think this dude's going to be able to replicate the success he's been having in the draft and keeping this team young and cheap and fresh on a continual basis. So unless you know that you can get Justin Jefferson, I'm not willing to give up these types of draft picks because I think this team can go and get guys in this draft, especially when we've heard from everybody that we trust out there that is saying this is one of the most talented draft classes in the history of the NFL, especially at wide receiver and tackle, which, what would you know? Those are 2 of the biggest positions of need for the Chiefs this offseason. So yes, go and get a difference maker. But if you're talking about trading away 5-6 draft picks, I'm not so sure I'm in for that, guys, because I think this draft, the Chiefs can find some real difference makers in it.
I think Mahomes freed up that money because he's just worried about what the other people in the division are doing. The Raiders, Minshew or Aiden O'Connell, we've got to deal with that. We hear that the Broncos are interested in Zach Wilson. So Mahomes freed up that 21 to deal with the AFC West because we've got a lot coming here. Austin Eckler left the Chargers. They're going to have to cut more people. So we've got our own problems here in-house in the AFC West, and Mahomes is ensuring that we add more potential and stars here to deal with what's coming at us.
Is that Jason Elam's body?
It is Jason Elam. Good catch there.
Good call.
No, it's like these draft picks are currency, literally, because look how many players are balling out of control for the Chiefs under rookie contracts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I thought the Chiefs were going to get chipped to death this offseason, because there are going to be so many pieces that we're going to need. We need linebackers now. We need a left tackle for sure. And of course, wide receivers. So then that's the cost of doing business. That's the cost of winning. We're going to see this stuff every year. Colin Saunders, we saw him leave and go to the Saints. Willie Gay, there's going to be more to come. And you got to pick and choose which players you pay. But like to your point though, Lance, it's in Veach we trust. I said that about the wide receivers for the past 2 years. In Veach we trust, and even more reason, for the cost of doing business of winning Super Bowls. You see Tommy Townsend, although I knew we wasn't going to re-sign him. He's the least utilized player on the team, even though he had a great season last year. And Allegretti, what a way for him to earn his contract, man.
That's awesome for him.
But happy for him. He sacrifices left pec or whatever it is during the Super Bowl for us. So happy for Allegretti to go and get his money.
Definitely. Lance, you bring up some points that you brought up about left tackle, and we're going to expand on this in 4 weeks. But and I'm not just saying this because we had Wanya Morris on the show last year. People are going to think, okay, Shaggy, you're just saying that because you had Wanya Morris on here and he loves you guys at Arrowhead.
Shane had to say this. So.
But here's where I think, and let me preface this by saying we're going to trust whatever Andy Heck or Andy Reid wants to do. If Andy Heck says draft a left tackle in the first round, by golly, we're going to say, yep. Andy Heck and Andy Reid says draft a left tackle in the first round. But it is important to remember, and nobody's talking about this. Andy Reid took Eric Fisher with his number 1 overall pick in 2013, and Eric Fisher never saw any snaps at left tackle his rookie season. Wanya Morris was thrust into left tackle. And I know we had Brandon Albert, but when Brandon Albert got hurt, Brian, what Andy Reid did in 2013 is he took Donald Stevenson, his right tackle, and put him at left tackle twice and put Eric Fisher at right tackle because he wasn't going to let Eric Fisher see the light of day at left tackle his rookie season. But by golly, when freaking Donovan Smith got hurt this year, we were like, wow, Wanya Morris at left tackle. And you know what we saw at left tackle? We saw a rookie. We saw him do some good things. I mean, I text Lance, hey, man, how about that first drive for Wanya Morris, man? He was solid. He looked really good. Then the very first play of the next drive, he gets sacked.
Give it the sack.
Patrick Mahomes would get sacked, and I had to text Lance. Yeah, he's not off to a good start.
Never mind, disregard.
But yeah, what I'm saying is we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna expand on this 4 weeks from tonight on our draft show. But if the Chiefs draft a left tackle and he plays, he's gonna look like a rookie. He's gonna look like he's got a lot to learn, like Wanya Morris did last year. So what I'm hoping that they believe Wanya Morris can develop into that guy as a left tackle because he got to play 6 games as the starting left tackle this season, and he would have been the starting left tackle going to the playoffs if he didn't go to concussion protocol. So that's why I'm hoping that Andy Reid and Andy Heck look at the tape and see what Wanya Morris did in 6 games as a starting left tackle and how he can get better. What's your take on that, Lance?
Look, man, I understand the Wanya Morris. You know what I feel like this is now? I think this is now transitioned into the Joe Thuney can play left tackle because we saw him do it for a few plays. That's what I think this is turning into. Not that I'm trying to knock Wanya Morris as a player, but I want to contextualize what he is to this team. I view Wanya Morris as a backup depth piece. He was a 3rd-round pick, and if I'm not mistaken, out of Oklahoma. He played a lot of right tackle, if I'm not mistaken, at college as well. So he was playing naturally out of position as a third-round player. And if we know anything about the majority of guys that start in their first seasons at offensive line at any position, they're usually first or second-round players. So Wanya Morris was really taking on a lot, and I'll give him his respects. But when I'm looking at this team as it's being built this season, if we're looking at inexperience at left tackle this year, I would rather the Chiefs go and swing for a guy early in this draft and let him have that opportunity and see what he's got than to put a guy that I don't believe is going to be that long-term answer there right now based on what I've seen from him in the sample size he's given us. Because, guys, we heard this fan base and how much they couldn't stand Orlando Brown Jr., correct? Well, I'm not the biggest grade guy, but when it comes to offensive linemen, we tend to have to listen to it. We have to pay attention to it because they don't have stats. They don't have touchdowns a lot of times. They don't have other things. We have to kind of go off of these grades. Orlando Brown Jr. was a significantly higher graded player than Wanya Morris. In fact, Orlando Brown Jr. in his 2 seasons with the Chiefs graded up around 75 to 75.8 at left tackle. Wanya Morris graded out at about 55 to 58. So in other words, guys, Wanya Morris did not impress me enough to give him the opportunity and say, you know what, let's risk Patrick Mahomes' blindside this season with him, who I'm not impressed with, who I do not trust, who was a third-round piece, who was brought in as depth, a guy who originally played right tackle. Let's have him play left tackle because we saw him play decently at times. I would rather, if the Chiefs are going to go young and inexperienced, I would rather them go with a guy who's played the majority of their college career at that position and played it at a higher level than Wanya Morris ever has. So that's where I'm at. And the Chiefs have been playing patch up. But see, this offseason, they can't afford to do that because if you look at the market out there, unless you're willing to bring back Donovan Smith, who was less than impressive in my eyes, Donovan Smith, I apologize. Donovan Smith, unless you're willing to bring him back, or Tyron Smith, who's going to be 35 years old and is injured when he coughs. I just don't know if those are the kind of guys that I would want to trust to protect Patrick Mahomes' blindside because that's the most valuable position on the offensive line. If it's my bet, I would like to see them. This is why I talk about draft picks, accumulating as many draft picks as possible and trying to move up into the first round because we know that the first 10 to 12 picks, a lot of teams are going to be gauging for quarterbacks, which means naturally tackles and wide receivers will be sliding back. Hopefully, at least I'm being optimistic here. If that is in fact the case, maybe the Chiefs can trade up 6 to 7, 8, 9 spots and maybe go and get one of these premier tackles in this draft. It's not sexy. I know everyone's looking at wide receiver here, but I think that protecting Patrick Mahomes has to be the top priority when it comes to building this team now and for the next 5 to 10 years.
I think you're right, Lance. It does need to be a priority, but that's why I don't think you can draft someone. They can end up being Trezell Jenkins, Victor Riley. We've seen it here in Kansas City. And so maybe if you do take one of those guys, I'd at least like to see them learn behind someone, maybe not start right away, because I'd like to see a Tyron Smith or a Donovan Smith. I know that each one of them has their own separate issues. Donovan Smith is kind of declining. Is he still good enough to protect Patrick Mahomes? We just won a Super Bowl with it. It's not great. It's not sexy. Like the draft pick won't be for fans, and Tyron Smith has a lot of injury concerns and he's 35, like you mentioned, but I think they need more of a sure thing in the technique and skill that they can handle, that they've seen them handle it in the NFL if they're going for the three-peat than starting a rookie that could turn out to be a Trezell Jenkins. And now what do? We took a bum. He's a bust. Now, Wanya, I guess do we go trade for someone and during the season?
Lucas Niang.
There you go.
I think it's about trust. As I originally said, it's trust. And if Andy Reid and Andy Heck trust Wanya Morris, or if Andy Reid and Andy Heck want to get a number 1 draft pick, left tackle, that's what it's about. Lance is going by what he sees in those stats. The only thing I respectfully disagree with Lance about comparing him to Orlando Brown is I'm comparing Wanya Morris at left tackle as a rookie to Eric Fisher as a rookie. Eric Fisher did not see a snap at left tackle as a rookie because Andy Reid didn't trust him there as a rookie at left tackle. He would move Donald Stevenson, like I said, from right tackle to left tackle when Brandon Albert got hurt. So, and I'm just comparing this rookie season, the sample size, these 6 games that Wanya Moore started at left tackle. Was it enough? It's something that we will find out in the coming weeks, and I'm looking forward to expanding that on our draft show in 4 weeks. What do you think, Clint?
Oh, I was really hoping you wouldn't go to me, Shane, when it comes to the offensive line, because I've been asleep for 5 minutes, Shane. I really wish you wouldn't have gone to me. Could you just said any other name? Could you have please just said Brian? Brian would have come up with some offensive line wonderment, and we seen this long. We're stuck with Jamal. there at right tackle, Juwan Taylor, and we see that kind of experience its highs and lows, if you will. Hey, you've got Wanya Morris on the roster, you've got Lucas Niang on the roster. I'm not saying that protecting Patrick Mahomes' blind side isn't not important. We know it is. We also know that Patrick Mahomes makes up for the deficiencies there. What's been the best offensive line of these 6 years of Patrick Mahomes starting? I don't know. How good was the Chiefs' offensive line in 2023? Was it the 12th best line, the 14th, the 3rd? I don't know. I know that it's part of the equation, and we will address that with the draft picks coming up, and we will address it with free agency. So I just think it'll all work out great. The line will work itself out, and we could, our time would be better used on, other positions. But
what do you say,
Brian? You love offensive lines, so
No, we can't talk about the offensive line anymore. I can't do it. I've got to move on. I've got to go to some AFC West musings and get Brian's thoughts on this tough AFC West coming up here in 2024. Because Antonio Pierce says we can make it where the AFC West goes through the silver and black. It's like, I'm not looking everywhere else. They're going to have to start looking at us and the Raiders. And then we've got the Broncos just willing to eat $85 million in dead cap. They're just eating money sandwiches as Russell Wilson is now a Steeler. We've got him letting go of Justin Simmons, who has picked off Mahomes the most out of anyone. He's got 5 interceptions off Mahomes. The most anyone else has is 2. Jerry Jeudy is a Brown now. So what do you make of this, Brian? This tough AFC West coming up. They're making some shrewd moves out here, and the Chiefs have got to counter it.
I think it's worse than last year.
First off, Jerry Jeudy looks like Big Boy from Outkast.
Who's going to be at SFC's The Catch? I'm glad you brought that up, Brian. He will be performing live in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, bombs over Baghdad, baby. But look, man, the Mahomes rules is hilarious to me. And what Antonio Pierce is doing to the Raiders right now, and to all the other Chiefs fans, I'm a traditional Chiefs fan. A lot of people like to say that the Broncos are the number one. No, they're not. The Raiders always have been, always will be the number one enemy of the Kansas City Chiefs, okay? Ask Hank Stram about it. And for these bastards to come up with Mahomes rules, I can't wait, fellas, because this ain't going to do nothing but add another chapter to the last dance that Patrick is going to have in 2050 when we look back on this magnificent run that he's going to have. And it's going to be a chapter on ESPN. We're watching the 30 for 30. Man, I remember those days. We was on Arrowhead Allies. We was analyzing this. I remember that exact thing. And then we're going to come up with these Mahomes rules. And then Antonio Pierce is going to come up, and he's going to start blabbing his mouth like he's been doing this all season. They're going to go back to the interview with him and Max Crosby talking about, I wish we were the Chiefs. We got to stop those Chiefs. I'm tired of them doing ring around the rosy. They won the Super Bowl in our stadium for a week and then win a playoff game there. So yes, I cannot wait to see the extra chapter in the Mahomes book about the Mahomes rules, because it's not going to do nothing but add fuel to the fire, especially not only to this rivalry, but to Patrick to thumb his nose in the eyes, the not the one with the patch on, because there's no eye there in the Raider logo, but in the other one where the eye is out, Patrick is going to just put his thumb right in the eye, so the Raiders logo is going to be new, and it's going to have 2 patches, and it's got to say Mahomes on top. I can't wait for that.
You never thought about this at all, Brian.
I put a lot of thought into that, but I will say the Broncos, they're going to be in cap hell this year. Not really worried about what they're doing. They're trying to cut the fat and trim the meat. But fellas, I will say we can never get away from the 95 Colts. We can't. This bastard Jim Harbaugh wants to come into this division and try to ruin the Chiefs again. And I will say that, like, in years past, we've made fun of the Chargers and we, being the offseason Super Bowl champions. But I will say, fellas, I think this Chargers team could get some legitimacy under Jim Harbaugh. He's one of the greatest coaches in this era, period, of football, not just the NFL football, but of football. Everywhere he goes, he wins. He changes the culture. And we know what he's doing. He's doing what the college coach who comes into the league does. They get all these draft picks. They got so much intel on all the college players that's out right now. So I'm gonna be keeping my eye on the Chargers draft this year and see what they do and see how they approach it. And when the Chargers come out next year, I got a feeling, fellas, it's gonna be a brand new attitude with that organization, and they are definitely gonna be our toughest foe for the next several years as long as Jim Harbaugh is there.
Well, they're the only one with a quarterback, so it's probably true.
Oh, you talk about cap hell though. The Los Angeles Chargers guys. What's it going to look like next year if there's no Mike Williams, there's no Keenan Allen? They're trying to rebuild the receiving
Leo
core.
Mack,
Joey Bosa. Like, what is it going to look like? This may take some time. How patient are we ready to be? I mean, especially when the Chiefs are heading towards what are, a 9th straight AFC West title. Just keep them rolling in. I got all the time in the world for it. I think that when you look at this division as a whole, Noah, I think that this division is worse than it was at this time a year ago. You think about Josh McDaniels was coming into his second year with the Raiders. Jimmy Garoppolo is signed there. They had, been to the playoffs in 2021. And in 2022, they were the best 7-10 team we've ever seen, right? I thought last year with the Chargers, with what they had, that this division was better last year. And, not only that, Russell Wilson, the Denver Broncos, I had Sean Payton in the mix. I had some legitimate concerns. I mean, I think most of us picked the Chiefs losing a game or two, and the AFC West wound up losing 2, which is crazy. But no, I think this division's worse than it was last year as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, the Broncos are having to deal with cap issues and don't have a quarterback. The Chargers have a quarterback, but are finally having to deal with their cap issues. The Raiders don't know what they're doing. Minshew versus O'Connell is their answer. They lost Josh Jacobs. So, yeah, there's problems all over the rest of these teams. Meanwhile, Mahomes was restructuring his contract. We got Chris Jones signed, and we've got Drew Tranquil signed. We're out looking at receivers and tackles and bringing Snead back. I mean, there's a lot of good things out there for the Chiefs, and the rest of these teams are going through turmoil. But, Lance, I want to throw up some graphics and get your thoughts on some of the other moves around the league, and if anything stands out, does anything scare you? Maybe a Derrick Henry to the Ravens. We've got Mooney, who we thought could be here in Kansas City. He's a Falcon. Joe Mixon gone from the Bengals, now the Texans. Then you've got a lot of running backs getting signed. Your Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, Kirk Cousins to the Falcons, and Jordan Poyer goes to the Dolphins. Daniil Hunter to the Texans, who are kind of rounding out a nice team. That's somebody you could probably keep your eye on. Austin Eckler leaves to the Commanders. Leonard Floyd to the Niners is kind of an underrated move that I like for them. But Lance, does anything stick out to you there?
Well, let me first of all say, because we got the news right before the show broke, that Willie Gay did sign a 1 year, I think it was the $5 million max with the Saints, who, by the way, I did not know they even had $5 million to spend, but congratulations to them on getting a freak athlete like Willie Gay. I was very surprised that was the kind of contract Willie got. I thought he was going to get a long-term deal, and I thought he was going to get paid. I guess that's just not the market for outside linebackers this time around, but I just wanted to send out my shout-outs to Willie for helping the Chiefs get to 3 Super Bowls and winning 2 of them. He was a passion guy. He was driven. He was the guy that told him to go play the Swag Surf song, and it kind of felt like the momentum shifted after that, and he was one of those guys, man. So I'm going to miss Willie, and I appreciate everything he did for this team. I will say the 2 things, because I want to focus on the AFC side of things, because we know that's the direct competition for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
We know that every single year there's always going to be some new team that rises, and it's really hard not to fixate and focus on this young and upcoming Texans team, primarily because of the fact that C.J. Stroud is him. I know that everybody focuses on Justin Herbert, and now Harbaugh's got this Justin Herbert talent. I still question whether Justin Herbert really has what it takes to be a winner in this league. He's got all the talent in the world, but he's had a plethora of weapons his entire career, and he has not gotten better since his rookie season, which happened to be a season in which there were no opposing fans in the stands. So, of course, he looked great that first season. There was no pressure on him. And so I just feel that Justin Herbert still has a lot of questions to answer, whereas C.J. Stroud, in my eyes, has answered a lot of them almost immediately, because he's already been more impressive in my eyes than Justin Herbert has been to this point. And I really like what D'Amico Ryans is doing with this team, and they've been very aggressive today by going and getting a good veteran running back like Joe Mixon, and then going in a Daniil Hunter on the defensive side, a guy that can absolutely wreck a game by getting after the quarterback. Those are pieces that we may sometimes overlook or try to downplay, but can play massive dividends in the postseason run that they're trying to go on, guys. So that's first and foremost. I'm gonna be honest with you. This Ravens team is very weird to me, because first of all, I'm the biggest Derrick Henry fan there is. I call him Derrick John Henry, because this dude is an immortal. He is really like the John Henry of the stories that we read as kids. And I've really loved watching this guy play, and I'm expecting him to be an asset to that team. I think this is the perfect system, the perfect situation. Him and Lamar Jackson running that offense, that little read situation they have going. But it's a weird thing for me with the Ravens because it's almost like they don't have a true identity right now. Because what did we hear all last offseason?
Odd Monken passing game.
Yes, exactly. They're trying to change to prove that Lamar is what everybody says he's not, is a true passing quarterback. Then he ends up going right back to his old ways. And then ironically, in the playoffs against the Chiefs, all he wants to do is throw the damn ball. And it just doesn't work out either way you look at it. I think things will be alleviated for him at this time around, having a guy by far the best running back he's ever had. But here's the problem that no one's really wanting to talk about, guys. The Ravens are losing a lot of good defensive players. And they're losing to division rivals. So this is something that makes me wonder, losing your DC and McDonald, losing Patrick Queen, losing these safeties. Like, I'm wondering if that's going to be the part that we're not paying attention to. But in the regular season, we're like, oh my God, the Ravens really are weak in the back end of their defense. Their linebackers aren't as strong as they used to be. Roquan Smith, he's not benefiting having that guy next to him anymore. He's doing it all on his own. I really do wonder, guys, if the Ravens are going to be one of those surprise teams that maybe regresses next season, even though they added such an awesome asset on the offensive side of things. We know this is a defensive-driven team, and with Joe Burrow getting healthy, with the Browns getting better, with the Steelers looking to be at least formidable, they went and got a quarterback that's literally being paid $38 million to not play for the Broncos. But I digress. That's still a good team with Mike Tomlin running things. So those are the two things I'm looking forward to the most when it comes to these free agent signings so far. Guys, we're a little over, 30-some hours into the new league year. We got so much more to go. There could be a surprise that we don't see coming that totally shifts things on the AFC side of things. But as you guys say in the AFC West, as we're saying as a whole in the AFC, we know where this stuff goes through, guys. We know where it's running through, and I think that the AFC West. Let me just put a little snippet out there about this Jim Harbaugh situation, because I respect that man. I love him as a coach as well. One of the most successful guys there's ever been in the history of coaching in football. But I find it scary for Jim Harbaugh that he chose to finish second as his fate for the foreseeable future. I find it very scary for him because he's going to make a ton of money, and this dude should be a winner. He should be a guy that wins a Super Bowl, but he chose the AFC West. He chose to go to Patrick Mahomes' division in Patrick Mahomes' prime, when they have the opportunity to three-peat, when they have a team that is the youngest roster and one of the youngest rosters in the NFL. I mean, to me, I find it baffling. I understand the location's nice. I know that Justin Herbert's attractive. He's got the cool flipping hair and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, do you have what it takes? Because as it currently stands, Clint, you kind of mentioned it, they got $24 million to still get off their books before they can actually be considered working with the league, being under the cap hit. So good luck to you guys, because I know that Jim Harbaugh is a hell of a motivator. It's gonna, he's gonna motivate his guys. He's gonna do the cool, hitting of Justin Herbert and things like that, molding them and minting them and making them look all cool and things like that. But are the Chargers gonna get the job done? And that's a big negative, fellas. Just like Sean Payton in Denver, they got a lot of problems, guys, and their biggest problem is one they can't avoid, and it's the Kansas City Chiefs. So the AFC is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, the Texans and Ravens are the teams I'm looking to right now, but this poor AFC West, man, it's looking more and more bleak as time goes on, because now these teams that overspent over the last 2 years are now getting that bill, and they may not be able to leave a tip.
Yeah, checks come due. And man, Jim Harbaugh, like you said, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's weird and interesting that he chose here, but I also kind of respect it, going up against Goliath and saying, hey, if I'm gonna get back in this NFL thing, I'm gonna go head to head with Patrick Mahomes, and I'll take him down. I think he's wrong, and he's not going to take him down, but I like the confidence and the bravado to do that. And Shane, I want to go to you with some other teams that have been almost a thorn in our side. Bengals and Bills. Bengals, T. Higgins requests a trade, and the Bills, they lost Poyer, they lost Mitch Morse, who I believe went to the Jaguars, and our old friend Doug Peterson, and Tre'Davious White, corner, is out. He's had a lot of injuries over the last couple of years, and he's gone. 3 big pieces gone for the Bills, and they restructured Von Miller. What do you make of these moves, Shane? The Bengals and Bills look like a little bit of disarray going there, as it kind of seems the whole AFC is going through.
I'm shocked T. Higgins is acting that way, but the Bengals know that they're going to have to pay their other receiver. What's his name? Number 1 draft pick. Jamar Chase, yes. And the Bills,
the Chiefs, Chase.
And the Bill situation, it sucks for Poyer because, you thought he was going to be the foundation of that safety. Mitch Morse, Missouri guy, I had a chance to talk to him at training camp in 2018 as a Chief. And, me and Lance Twidwell did a mock draft in 2017 before the Chiefs drafted Patrick Mahomes. And, we talked about, well, we could stay at 27 and draft Tre'Davious White, the cornerback out of LSU. Ironically, that is where he went. He went 27, but it was to the Bills because the Chiefs traded up to 10 from 27. Tre'Davious White's a name that I wouldn't mind kicking the tires on if we trade Snead just to create depth and competition at training camp, because when healthy, Tre'Davious White is a decent cornerback. Yeah. But specifically to those teams in those situations, I feel sorry for him if I am a Bills fan, but since we're a dynasty, we can just say, best of luck, guys. Sorry.
You had your chances, but then you paid your quarterbacks like Lance said over there, Bills do, and it's not going to look pretty for you for the next couple of years while you try and get under the cap and manage it and create a new team. You're going to have to draft well, find some deals in free agency, and figure things out.
Right.
That's Definitely. It. That's where we're at. This is the, we talked about proverbially, turning the calendar over into a new league year. And when that happens, for the Chiefs, we talked to Andy Reid at the Combine a few weeks ago, and the Combine is kind of the turning point where it's like, hey, it's the, last few days of February, first couple of days of March. That's when they turn the corner, and that Super Bowl 58, that's it. That's behind them now. The guys went to Vegas to live it up one more time. Patrick Mahomes is making the rounds. Happy anniversary to Patrick and Brittany Mahomes, by the way. It's their second wedding anniversary. Yeah. Love those two. What a hot couple. We love them. Great kids. We got Sterling and Bronze out there that bring lots of attention, positive attention to us at Starcade Media. We had to latch onto that early. Same with Taylor Swift. We love all of you. But that's why we're here on Arrowhead Allies, to turn the corner and to really start looking ahead, because we've been talking dynasty, we've been talking three-peat, and that's what we're going to continue to do as we launch into the draft and into the rest of the offseason. Brian be shining. I'll tell you, we didn't get our group hug session, from the Super Bowl. I think we are getting it right now. We argued about McCole Hardman for too long, so this is it right now. Super Bowl champs, and we're turning the corner, man. That's all that's what we do here in Kansas City. It's business-like approach, and that's it. That goes for us allies as well, doesn't it?
I want to shout out all the allies tapping in tonight. Seriously, man, we've had a consistent big crowd in here.
Yeah, it's a record by a lot.
All the new allies, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Please join in the Discord and talk. Don't be a wallflower for the rest of the season. We're trying to build a community here of Arrowhead allies. Everybody that's tapped in is an ally, so we appreciate y'all.
Yeah, and definitely this was the Lance Twidwell debut show.
Yes,
we could have had some guests, but we wanted to, we sat and talked about who we should bring on and who we can bring on. But we thought, man, let's devote this hour to Lance Twidwell. We're gonna have our guests back. You know them, you love them, and when you see them, they'll be here with Lance, Brian, Noah, Clinton, myself. But this hour, this show, Free Agent Freakout Frenzy, was dedicated to a damn good friend of mine. I love him, man. I've known Lance since 2010. He's a great guy. I'm not just saying that because he's a great guy. But seriously, guys, this tonight's show was all about Lance. And Lance, thank you for coming and being an Arrowhead ally with us.
Lance, a debut that rivals any, I don't know, come up with your best wrestling WWF, like the Kane debut. It's Bad Blood, where he ripped the cage down and Tombstone the Undertaker. That's the debut we got from Lance Twidwell, and it lived up to the hype. Everybody, look at this. It's a record show, Lance. It's a record number of viewers and commenters, and you are a huge part of that. This is going to be a blast, is it not?
It's already a blast, man. Just the thought of joining you guys. We met up a few months ago, and you guys offered this to me. It was an honor to me, guys, because I know that you guys have been doing great. The Spoken plays a small part of what we do here at Starcade, but to now be here with the allies, to be a part of the allies, to be one of the allies. In all seriousness, we joke around. I came on here, like I said, with the glasses, and I did my little thing, my little spiel, my little pay-per-view clip. But you know what? In all seriousness, this is what I look forward to the most, is talking with y'all, having a blast, because it's so cool when you can do this, and it doesn't have to be a performance. You're doing this with your buds. You're doing this with your pals. Yes. I consider every single one of you guys like family. And I love you guys to death, and I appreciate you guys just wanting me to be here so I can run my mouth, act like I'm smart for 30 to 45 minutes, and give you guys my takes. But I promise you, every single take I give you on this show is going to be my genuine belief, my genuine truth. I will not lie to you guys. I will keep things honest and authentic as long as I'm here. And I appreciate you guys letting me be a part of this.
That's all we ask. That's great
Heck
stuff
yeah.
right there. And
Well, 4 weeks from tonight, Clint, 4 weeks from tonight, we'll be doing our draft, our mock draft, where the Chiefs will go. What do you think, Noah?
Absolutely. We're going to wrap up free agency and what we have there and the rest of the moves that are made. We've got to add a receiver. We've got to add a tackle. We've got to see what happened with Snead. So once that's all wrapped up into a nice, pretty bow for us and our 9th straight AFC West title, we will come back, talk about all those offseason moves, talk about the draft, who we think we're going to take. Is it Xavier Worthy? Is it Xavier Legette as an offensive lineman? Oh, we are ready for it. Like Shane said, in about a month's time, we will see you again. We can't thank you all enough for tuning in and watching. Until next time, this is Arrowhead Allies, and go Chiefs!